In this this second half, we have two speakers, as you heard. We've got Maria, we've got Julia. So we've been exploring this theme of the path in the Buddha's experience. Tonight, we're going to get the path in Maria's experience, the path so far, and specifically the path towards that step of realizing that you're a Buddhist and becoming a Buddhist. So that's specifically what we're going to get. So we have to, if we're talking about the path in the Buddha's experience, we have to sort of use our imaginations. We have to use the drawn words, but we have it in Maria's words. We've got her direct experience. So really, really pleased actually that Maria and Julia are going to talk about this this stage, because there's so much to learn actually from people's individual experience. And just to introduce, because you may not have all met Maria and Julia before, but I think I'm really, really delighted actually they're both come forward, great examples of what it is to be Buddhist. And that sounds a bit daunting, doesn't it, to be an example of what it is to be a Buddhist. I don't mean a Buddha. Yeah, they're not Buddhas as yet. Like, Buddhas are the sort of perfection, aren't they? But Buddhists, in a way, are even better because they can sort of help us learn what it might mean for us as human beings to tread the path to become Buddhists. I think with Maria, I guess I saw Maria come along the first few times back at meditation night, but it was particularly when she came on the summer retreat actually that I got a stronger sense of her. Very, very capable woman. You instantly get a sense of someone very, very capable. I don't even quite understand what her job is. It's a bit beyond my comprehension, but you feel that very definitely, very, very capable woman. But what's lovely about Maria is that she's also very unassuming. She's got this lovely sort of unassuming manner, so it doesn't sort of dent her ability to look up, to appreciate people who've been practicing the path, but maybe significantly younger than she is, for example. So you get this lovely combination of kind of very, very capable, very, very able to disagree, and say, but without that being sort of in any way disrespectful or inappropriate. Lovely combination of qualities. Yeah, so I'm delighted to hear what Maria's going to share.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. I'm happy to talk to you about my path so far. And I thought I'd go back a little way to before I met Buddhism. So I think that's the sort of journey that I've been on. So I'll go back to about sort of 2016, which was a very difficult time in my life because I'd left my academic position and taken a job in industry, a very prestigious job, which should have been great, but it really wasn't because that job didn't align with my values at all. And after a while, I realized that I was quite alienated from the other people working in the job and the whole topic of the work that I was doing, and everything was wrong. And it was very, very uncomfortable. And I even ended up in some quite sort of toxic working relationships with some of the other people working there. And at that time, I started to look for some answers that would sort of give me some perspective on my life and maybe help me to see a way through all that. And the thing that I turned to was actually the Stoic philosophers. And I read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I don't know how many people here have read those. And they were, that was what I needed at that moment, because the Meditations made me realize, I think I had quite a deep insight actually from reading them, made me realize that I was participating in a sort of game that wasn't real life, and that none of what I was doing and engaging in and all this toxicity was not real. It didn't matter. And the people that I was having those relationships with didn't matter in terms of my longer term sort of life and development. And I was able actually to start the process of just letting go of all that. And it was a deep insight, because I even changed my job as a result of that. I kind of realized that the prestige and the sort of, ego value of that job was worthless. And I gave it up, and I went back into an academic role at about half the salary that I had in the industrial job. But immediately, felt that a huge weight had gone. So that was the point that I was at when I sort of ran into Buddhism. The way that happened was that the Stoic philosophy wasn't enough for me, because it was about letting go, and it was about things not mattering, but it wasn't a way forward for me. It didn't give me anything to sort of build on. I didn't feel like I had any deep value there. So I started to learn to meditate, and that was really in an attempt to sort of develop a bit of self-love, I suppose, to heal after that experience of that kind of toxic few years that I'd been through. And I found, it was just after the pandemic, I found that the Buddhist Center was running meditation classes, and that they were in person. For some reason, it was very important to me at that point to have in-person contact with other people doing meditation. So I came along here, and the first person I met was actually Priya. When I say it was the first person I met, I mean, I was standing by the bookcase, looking at the books, because I didn't know anyone. And somebody came in the door, and it was quite crowded, but somebody came in the door, and I turned and noticed this sort of bright golden personage. And he gave me an incredibly warm smile. And that was that had an impact. And he was also leading the meditation session that night. And that had a huge impact. And on that very night, I thought, right, I'm going to keep coming. This is definitely what I need. And I've been coming basically, as often as possible since that day, and sort of embarking on my Buddhist path. So many of you, perhaps all of you, know that Sunday before last I had my Mitra ceremony, and that ceremony, of course, is about declaring oneself as a Buddhist, committing to following the 5 precepts, and committing to doing that within the Triratna tradition. So I think it's relevant to mention those parts of my process as well, and to say that my concern originally, what led me into meditation, was me. I'm unhappy. I need something else, and I need a way to become happier. But very quickly, I started to broaden that out and realize that actually I want to help to make the world a better place, because the world is a terrible mess, and I'm not the only unhappy person. I'm not unhappy anymore, by the way, but I was then. And I feel that, trying to overcome the suffering that's in the world is a matter of personal responsibility. There is no external force that's going to fix everything, so we have to do it ourselves. And that started to matter more to me than the personal element, really. So one of the things that appeals to me most about the way the Dharma is presented to us is that it is presented in these sort of formats of lists and tools. And that sounds very reductive. I don't mean it like that, but it's presented in a way that allows you to engage on a level that you can understand and you can actually address in your real life right then and there, without needing to know lots of stuff, without needing to have already achieved a certain level of wisdom or something. You can just decide on day one that you're going to start doing mindfulness of breathing or take a precept and try to follow it. And that sort of decomposition of the Dharma into these bite-sized chunks, so to speak, has been absolutely like fundamental for me, because I wanted to start practicing straight away and feel a difference straight away. And I think that the amazing thing about the Dharma is that we have all these lists of virtues that are all achievable if only we apply the tools that are available and do it diligently and consistently. And the tools are such simple things. You know, mindfulness of breathing, if you do it every day properly and with you know, real conviction, you develop awareness, and awareness is the key to enlightenment eventually. So I feel as though we have in our hands the things we need to become Buddhas eventually. And obviously, you know, enlightenment is a distant dream, but I feel as though I know what to do today to put myself a little bit closer. And that is, you know, that's something really extraordinary. I don't know of any other philosophy or religion where the thing is offered up in that way. And I don't know how much of the Dharma we would have access to as Westerners if Sangharakshita hadn't devoted decades of his life translating the teachings for us and creating a system within which we can practice. And my commitment to Triratna is based on gratitude for that. Because if it wasn't for Sangharakshita and Triratna, I would have no other way of practicing the Dharma and becoming a Buddhist. So, so yes, I feel as though my commitment to becoming a Mitra, those three things, the 5 precepts, being a Buddhist, the 5 precepts, and doing it within Triratna, are all fundamental to my sort of engagement with the Buddhist path. And then I'll just say one last thing, which is about the Sangha. I think that in any spiritual life, there will be a community of like-minded people doing the same thing, right? Following the same path. But the special thing about the Sangha is, to me anyway, is this idea that friendship is the core of the spiritual life. And the Sangha is there to allow us or to enable us to build those friendships and develop our spiritual life with other people. And that to me is, I mean, that's, you know, the importance of that is growing and growing all the time. And at my Mitra ceremony, I understood why the Sangha is one of the 3 jewels, because I've never experienced so much human warmth in my life before. There was just so much kindness and generosity and goodwill, and I was there and it was all falling on me like, you know, I don't know, rainbows or something. It was amazing. It was a beautiful experience, and that's why the Sangha is a jewel. So yeah, so basically that's why I'm a Buddhist, and that's why I'm a Buddhist in the Triratna tradition. Thank you for listening.
Visual aids. I should have known to expect the unexpected. Great. So yes, we've got Maria as well giving a talk. So I'm delighted that Maria. Oh, sorry. Julia.
I'm also called Maria. So
Yeah. Sorry about that.
no worries.
Yes, so I started to get to know Maria a little bit. I can't do it, can I? A little bit after Julia. I don't know what you were laughing at.
We're laughing with you.
Yeah. But again, actually, it was a summer retreat, particularly the summer retreat. it was a wonderful moment, wasn't it? And yeah, I got to interview you both along with Robin about that. And I think, yeah, what particularly jumped out for me? Well, I think with Julia, you get. I think Julia's sort of a woman who's got a lot of capacity, very, very enthusiastic. She's got a kind of infectious enthusiasm, as Julia. She just sort of exudes. You just sort of catch. But she's also well, quite a force, actually, quite a force to be reckoned with. I'd say, Julia. She's worked over years in the area of marginalised people of colour, and she communicated something to the centre about that, about how we could do that better. I was very, very struck by the communication. Very, very, very skilled. And persuasive communicator, actually. So yeah, I just sort of got a sense of someone who's quite a sort of force, someone who can kind of make things happen, who can persuade people and bring people on board. Yeah, so who's quite a kind of force. So I'm very interested to hear what you are going to say about this stage of your path.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you. And yeah, and it's really nice to hear my friend Maria talk, my richer friend. So I'm going to start by really with friendship. When I first came here, I had never heard it described that friendship was a value. And that really stood out for me as something I thought, that wasn't on my list of what I thought was a value. And that might sound a little odd if it was always on your list, but I think I had thought of values as other things, really, perhaps just the way I was brought up or the life I'd lived. But it really struck me. It really struck me that I think Sangharakshita said, and there's this book, if you haven't read it, which I really love, The Tree Ratna Story. And I remember coming across this again. And I think when asked, or whether Sangharakshita asked the question, someone I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong, what is the value you would die for? And I thought, that's a big question. And I understand that he said friendship. But friendship was just so essential. And so when I came here, I wasn't actually aware that that's one of the core reasons that I had landed here. And I came through the doors in January last year, and I just recently moved to Cambridge the October before, and it was as soon as the centre opened after COVID. So I was very lucky because I'd moved here and thought, I'm going to go there. Something had just drawn me here. And very soon people were asking me, well, why are you here? And I remember actually having a chat with yourself, and you'd said to me, oh, Julia, that's spiritual friendship. I thought, oh, is that what this is called? Because when I first arrived at the centre, a bit like Maria was describing, I was a newbie, and I was kind of looking around, and I did come sussing it out. Actually, I spent about 6 months thinking, who are these people? What do they have to say? How do they behave? How do they really behave? What does it look like here? How does it feel? And when I came here, the thing that struck me was the friendliness, was the tea, and was that beautiful welcome that you get here. And I hope everybody here has felt a sense of that. And now I find myself, I was invited to join the team a few weeks ago for these evenings. And I thought, wow, now I'm joining, with these people to welcome others or make the tea. And so the only way I can really share what I feel it is to be a Buddhist is to say, I think I've always been a Buddhist, but I just didn't know the words for it. I just didn't know that this was what it was called, this thing that I felt in my life, this willingness to have loads of joy. I really like laughing. I really, really love smiling deeply. But I'm equally as I can smile, I'm equally have these deep concerns. And I find that I kind of do most of my friends' heads in, really, with my joy or my woes, or yeah. And I want to talk about it. I want to drill down. I want to understand it. I want to see what other people think. And being here is that opportunity to be with others that care deeply, but are also, quite frankly, like me, stuffing it up sometimes as well. I don't have the capacity to get things in line always with the values that I'm learning that I have. And so for me, I'm nearly 50, and I find it's a really great time in my life to be a student, be a learner. I love the word practice, because I feel like we're practicing it all the time. So I thought I'd share with you a couple of things about how I bring in my practice, if you like, into my life. And so just before I left the house, I thought, right, I'll grab a few bits to share with you. And one of the first things that came into my head was biscuits. And I love the tea and biscuits. So I'm half Indian. My dad's from Assam, which is where the tea famously comes from. And I have this thing about tea. But I remember when I was younger seeking what I now realise was spiritual guidance and taking myself off to the local church. My family didn't go. My dad was brought up in a very unusual situation where he wasn't taught one particular religion. And actually, he was in India, at the time when there was a lot of challenging times then. He didn't like what he saw in the name of any type of religion. So he said, I'm not bringing my children up. But I was a searcher. I wanted to go. I went to the church, but my favourite thing was the rich tea biscuits. And just sitting with predominantly the older ladies, I just wanted to know about their life. And I just wanted to hear about this who is this spiritual, this God or this Jesus, and who was that? But a lot of the things just didn't sit right with me. And I now realise they were my values. And I thought, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure that's what I feel. But the biscuits have always led a theme in my life. And when I was, so now I'm a mitra, so a friend here, and in my lovely group is Maria and Chilla, who's over here, and other friends. And this is our year one book, and I've got 2 pictures here that my kids have drawn on there. And one week, we were going to be reading about 4 or 5 pages before we all met up. We meet once a week. And it was about meditation, and I find it really hard about meditation. Honestly, I've got such a habit of having a busy mind. And so that's my challenge, is sitting down on the mat, feeling comfortable in my body. So I was really grateful for that today, to go and adjust and think about that, and just coming stiller, just being stiller. And so the theme was meditation. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go outside. And I did about 10-15 minutes. And then what it's given me access to is writing a bit of poetry, or sometimes it's not even poetry, it's just writing. And what happens with me is it just comes rushing in. And so that's my handwriting. That's how it comes in. And I have to read it afterwards. And I'm dyslexic. So what that means with me is I really delve deeply into words. And so often there'll be a word in here and I don't really know what it is, or it's not a word I use. So that for me is a bit of a connection towards Buddhism and Buddha, and that we can't explain. I can't explain how that happens, but it's something very tangible, and I feel it in my body, and it comes rushing in. So I wanted to share with you something that came rushing in a couple of weeks ago, if I can read it properly. So it's called The Buddha and the Biscuit. Would you like a hobnob biscuit, is my opening line to the Buddha. Just one, says the gracious being. Cup of tea? Yes, just one. I ask this with a nervous smile. Milk? It is oat, I say. However you have it, Julia, says the Buddha. Passing him his steaming cup, the mist goes all around. I pop a biscuit onto a plate. To my delight, he dunks for a perfect 2 seconds. Of course, he knows any longer, and a soggy bottom would arise. Mesmerised by the perfect dunk, my hobnob has already plunged to the base of the cup. Here there, take another, try again. I can't believe the gracious one is giving me the biscuits. This time I give my full attention and taste the perfect moist treat. As the Buddha's robe slipped slightly to one side, a retro t-shirt underneath with the words, with a heart and the words I, dukkha, appear. The heart is in the middle. My tea spills out of the cup. Do you think anyone was harmed in the making of this biscuit? I asked the Buddha. He looks at me. Say more. Well, were the oats sprayed with pesticides? Did the farmers get a fair wage? Is the plastic wrapper to stay in the ocean for eternity? Is this a biscuit or a slave? Strange how the t-shirt now says, I love Prapancha. He nods, smiles and says, drink tea, eat biscuit. So I sit, sip, munch, crunch. Now the t-shirt has only a heart. The Buddha gets up to leave and says, next time I'll bring the biscuits. This is the type of thing that kind of comes and then I go over it and I can feel lots of kind of messaging just in my own language, in my own words, in something that just really resonates deeply with me. And then through the times I ask people, I came to the centre and said to David, this Prapancha thing, how do you spell it? What is it? And or I'll ask somebody else, what is this? What's this or that? And so for me, Buddhism is an exploration of all the things that are kind of happening on a daily basis, that are happening in my life. Earlier, mentioned about my work, and part of what I really find helpful with Buddhism is just keeping me on track in a slightly different way. So about 11 years ago, I founded, along with a great bunch of people and my husband, a cancer support charity. So I'm a hairdresser by trade, and the charity is called Cancer Hair Care. And we support people when they lose their hair during cancer treatments. And this work has taken me on a huge adventurous journey, where now I'm privileged enough to be an NHS nurse educator and actually working with the NHS and a number of human rights charities on inclusion. And who thought, hairdressing and this job would hopefully help to really paint a picture of what it is to be left out and what it is to be included. But my Buddhism's really helping me to align that in a slightly different way, because it can be a rough and ready ride sometimes, and I really have to go slow. And we have a lot of approaches by press and different people who want to do a sensational story, and we have to say no, because what that is that's just a fly by the seat of your pants moment. And what we're committed to is a longer path, is a journey which really results in less suffering, improving things for people. And so where the Buddhism is really helping me on a daily level is just, it's checks and measures often. I come here and I'm able to be with other people who are sitting down for a moment, listening to a talk, trying to get some guidance on our meditation, or just smiling at each other and having an everyday chat. But there's something that just links us all together. And I think it's really strong. So it's something that I'd like to finish with by saying that it is always for me beyond words. There's a lot of, we live in a word heavy kind of world, really, don't we? And for me, I know when I'm really feeling it, because it's a feeling that's all around, and it can be in the strangest of situations, but it's really there. And that really interests me in being a part of something that can make long lasting difference for everybody in the world. Yeah, thank you for listening.